Get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be
Welcome to Tales from the Field. We are back and better than ever. Thank you so much for joining us. It's all of us. Oh, I'm so happy to see everyone back here again. We've had vacation time. We've had some holiday time. We've had some turkey time. And now we are back together once again, just briefly before we all go on the wonderful Christmas vacations that I think we're all looking forward to. My name is Bradley Ball. It is so good to have you with us. Last week, we did nothing. It was glorious. But 2 weeks ago, on Monday, I published SQL Server for Beginners. How does the query optimizer work? And then on Wednesday, Dan Taylor took over the Fabric Wednesdays for me, and he released Microsoft Fabric Data Flow Gen 2's a tutorial. Then on Monday, Dan was back again this week with how to perform a point-in-time restore in Azure SQL Managed Instance. We made it nice and easy. We've got all the great stuff in there. He did the Azure command line. He did the GUI interface. So you want to make sure you check this out. This is your first time finding your way over to Tales from the Field. Give us a like and give us a subscribe. We drop content every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Monday and Wednesday, we drop our MS Tech Bits, where we have learned something worth a product, working with the product group, working with customers, or inspired by you, the community. But today is Tuesday. This is the Azure Data Community Roundtable. You are here to be in and participate within the community, and we are bringing to you a glimpse of that community. You want to interact with the show? It is so easy to do so. All you need to do is head over to the Tales from the Field website over at YouTube while we are live and make a comment on our live stream. If you make a comment on that live stream, one of my wonderful co-hosts is going to see that comment, and they will add it to the screen, and you will be a part of the show. Speaking of those amazing co-hosts, of course, I am joined by Mr. Andreas Padilla. Back from the mountains, it is our good buddy Daniel Taylor, the man with the hat, Mr. Josh Luedeman, and then my favorite Microsoft feature, it's your friend and mine, Neeraj Jhaveri. I don't know what the Neeraj SKU is, but it's going to cost you some coin. Now, quick call to action. We are here because we are part of the Azure Data community, and we want you to be a part of the Azure Data community. So first thing you should do, you should head over to the Microsoft page where we have a link to the Azure Data community. You can find local user groups to be able to attend user groups in person. You can find virtual user groups to be able to attend. It is a wonderful way to be able to expand your knowledge and your ability to join in on the community. Next up, of course, once you're part of a user group, and you don't have to be a part of a user group, we want to make sure you head over to SQL Saturday. SQL Saturday is the premier location for you to find in-person meetups where you can get free training and you can get free education from Microsoft employees, from Microsoft MVPs, from some of the top consultants in the community. You can see coming up, there's a SQL Saturday in Lima. We've already got several listed for 2024. I know our team is actively eyeing SQL Saturday Atlanta in April and also Jacksonville in May. What a great time that's going to be, and we hope you can join us. Now, of course, after you've gone to SQL Saturday, the next thing you should be looking at is Data Saturday. Data Saturday is where you have virtual and in-person meetups as well to be able to find some of the best training in the community. It is another absolutely fantastic resource. And speaking of resources, if you are working on Microsoft Fabric, we want you to head over to the Microsoft Fabric Learning Group that we have created over in LinkedIn. We've got our good friend Bradley Schatt from the Power BI Fabric Cat team, who is also an owner of this group. The PG post in here, MVPs post in here. You can see our wonderful MVP, Mr. Kevin Chant, with a great blog that he has posted. All kinds of great content over there, and you don't want to miss a thing. Whew. Andreas, speaking of not missing a thing, what was on the table for Thanksgiving? Because I know we didn't miss anything.
Barbecue turkey was on the table, and then apple pie galore, but I missed you guys. I did shave off a little bit of turkey for each one in solidarity and set you guys your own plates. Next year I hope to have you guys here at the house.
That would be wonderful. I got to tell you, I love that because I brine a turkey and then I smoke a turkey. And so every single year I do a nice smoked turkey and a prime rib. That's Thanksgiving. Christmas is a turkey and some ham.
Oof.
So how about you guys? Neeraj, Dan, Josh, give me the favorite thing off the Thanksgiving plate that y'all had. I know my favorite bite is I'll do a homemade cranberry sauce with some shaved orange peel in it, but I also do Grand Marnier because I don't want those berries to fill anything. I want them to be nice and all drunk as they pop and begin to solidify. A little bit of sugar. But my favorite bite is that, my stuffing, and my turkey. Like those three flavors together, I can make a sandwich out of that. It's beautiful stuff. What about you guys?
So I'm definitely the prototypical northerner Caucasian gentleman. I love my green bean casserole. At least I've been told this by friends of mine that is very prototypical. Love that.
I would agree with that.
It's done right with like the Campbell's cream of mushroom with roasted garlic, that extra tinge of garlic in there. And then the secret recipe I got off of my friend Regina for the turkey. You gotta really get in there under the skin with it and rub this nice little concoction of spices and stuff in, and makes it a good moist bird with a good flavorful skin.
I hear you.
I had to throw in the word moist for my wife. Now I've made her go, and now we can move on.
There we go. With that turkey, you gotta smack it up, flip it, rub it down. Yep. Dan, what do you got for me?
I don't know of this thing that you call stuffing. We had dressing. And that's my favorite thing, honestly, the side. And then honestly, it's the pecan pie at the end.
Are we really going to do this, Dan, about the stuffing versus dressing? I mean, I got
not today. We're not. We got too much to we got too much to cover, and Neeraj hasn't spoken yet, and that's what I'm here for. Yeah. Neeraj, what did you have for Thanksgiving?
So, one of my friend made a veggie turkey stuff. I mean, he made a pile of shit stuff with vegetables, and I mean, usually the kids don't like it, but my kids love this time, so this was good. And other than that, a lot of drinks. I mean, he made a lot of different types of drinks that to entertain everybody. Usually, we go out in the night. The kids want to go to Old Navy to buy stocks and other stuff. This year they did not open up, so we just were home. And it was cold in New York. I mean, it was really cold in New York, so definitely staying home was better off.
Well, I was going to say, anytime you get the kids to eat vegetables, that's a win. And when I think of this next man, every time they bring the content, it's a win. And I'm talking about Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri with Microsoft Fabric November 2023 update. Neeraj, what do we got going on here?
Microsoft announced Fabric to be GA, so definitely a lot of stuff in there that goes towards the November updates. It's all Fabric, what went GA and what is up there. Even Power BI, they made a couple of new changes. They also listed out something that are in previews. So definitely, if you are interested in, go check it out. The previews are something that is definitely, if it's a private preview, we can enroll you up. If not, probably preview, you can have it in your subscription. Just need to be added up. But a lot of things, even in Synapse, they made a couple of changes. So something that I wanted to bring it up to the team from the last time when Fabric went was just public preview. Now it's GA.
Absolutely. There is so much to do, so much to cover. Tomorrow, myself and Neeraj Jhaveri, we had to move it from today. We are having our Fabric monthly update with Bradley Schatt. We're going to have it from 9:30 a.m. To 11 a.m. on Wednesdays instead of Tuesday. Normally, we have that as a lead-in at the end of the month. There will not be a Fabric monthly update in December because we're all going to be on vacation, but we are going to pick back up on those, and we're going to keep them coming in January. And speaking of things coming in January, it's not just my birthday in January. It is a new Microsoft certification coming in January 2024, Fabric Analytics Engineer Associate. So my pick is our good friend, Mr. Andy Cutler. Andy has this great blog in here talking about specifically what this is going to do, an overview of it, and he's got a link to be able to take a look at some of the skills measuring. A lot of really great stuff in here, especially if you are in an industry where you need some type of certification to be able to help sell the understanding or the belief. Or, when I was a government contractor, one of the things that we had was if you wanted to work on a contracting solution for a government entity, you needed to have some type of verifiable experience. And typically the way that was a certification. So I know in some industries, it's really important to get certifications. In some cases, it helps a business user find credibility in the skill set that we have. And this is a lot of great stuff. I think we're going to be doing more on this as well. But really loved it that Andy already had this out and ready to go. So you want to check out Mr. Andy Cutler and his blog
We
on
should go
that.
for certification. We all should go for certification just to see how we familiar with Fabric.
You know what? I'm down for that. It's been a while since I went for a certification, but I'll go for that certification. We'll have a cert off. See how people do.
It's cert off.
There
Challenge
you go.
accepted.
That's right.
I'm always shocked at how many certifications Andy is able to cram into a year. He's just like he's a certification maniac. Does a lot of them. I'm really proud. That's an awesome achievement.
Well, and speaking of awesome achievements, it's always awesome when I find something that helps me shortcut my daily work. And of course, it is the insight and intelligence of this next presenter who brought this link to us. And of course, you know, I'm talking about the one, the only, the man with the hood on, Mr. Daniel Taylor, with the Azure Data Explorer KQL cheat sheet. Dan, talk to me about this.
Yeah. So Ziva, and I believe I'm pronouncing her name right there. Really program manager as part of the KQL team, and who better to put together a cheat sheet than somebody from the program team for KQL? And I love how it goes through a brief explanation of what the different components of the cheat sheet are going to cover for you. And then she actually shares that this is a cheat sheet. Now, she didn't put together the cheat sheet, right? But a client did. So one of our customers released this cheat sheet, but she's given credit where credit's due, right? So up there in the blog post, really enjoyed this. It's a good way to get started with KQL. I love using Kusto Explorer to learn KQL because it'll take my T-SQL statements and write them for me. It'll also write but this is a great way to look at your KQL and understand what you're doing with it. So great little place to start and have like kind of over here in the corner on your screen.
Absolutely. All good stuff. I love it. I was actually looking at cheat sheets for C earlier, because one of the things that I really enjoy about it, one of the things I'm considering doing with Dan is a deep dive on how to be able to decode how SQL Server stores your data in memory and on physical disk. And of course, it all gets back to C and the way that we use binary and the way we use hex. So I was looking at some fun little C tutorials earlier just to refresh myself with it. And yeah, love a good cheat sheet. Speaking about another thing I love, you know, this man, and of course, this subject, I'm talking about Mr. Andres Padilla with Azure OpenAI. Andres, what do we got going on here?
Oh, speaking of, cert challenges, what we have here is an OpenAI challenge. Our good Kyle Gasparin, what he put together here, if you click on that link where it says intro page, it will take you to a number of challenges that he has thrown down for us. And those challenges are a challenge for storage, for ingestion, for process, for Azure AI services. And the one I put in there, the first link you had, was for OpenAI. What I love about them is that not only does it refresh your memory on a lot of these concepts, but the tutorials and the follow through and the step-by-step are so detailed that you're going to get a lot of great mileage and muscle memory out of these.
Very nice. And recently we did a video on provisioning an Azure OpenAI environment because we use that a lot in some of our Microsoft Fabric videos. The one thing I will remind folks is if you get prompted for a survey, all of us, because we all have access to Azure OpenAI, even us internally, we had to go through that same survey. That team that manages that survey gets back to you very quickly. It's just within a couple days. But you've got to go through that before it's kind of an artificial checkbox that we've got before you go in and you can start provisioning Azure OpenAI. So make sure you do that. Make sure you fill it out, but make sure that you go and you understand this, because a big thing we talked about when we did our keynote at Live 360 was that many people fear AI is going to take your job. AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI when you do not is going to take your job, though. So you want to make sure that you have access to Azure OpenAI, that you can go and use these tutorials to be able to go and learn great stuff, Andres. Absolutely love it. And again, speaking of something that I love that's very near and dear to my heart, of course, I'm talking about Mr. Josh Luedeman with Fabric Real-Time Analytics, Exploring Streaming to a Lakehouse by Sander van der Velde. Josh, what do we got going on here?
So this is a great post that Sander put out, and it's actually a part of a series of blog posts of not just looking at Fabric, but looking at Fabric for IoT developers specifically. And for me, IoT is kind of one of those things from a data perspective that I wish I was a better app developer, right? I do a little bit of home IoT, and I air quote it very gently because I basically go through GitHub and take other people's codes and then perverse it just enough to do what I want it to do. But he actually goes through, and it's a great series, 7 total parts. This happens to be part 6 of 7. And he goes through it of explaining Fabric for IoT developers, then each of the basic use cases, storing and reporting time series, adjusting streams and all that stuff, or ingesting streams, device events, all that stuff, and then ultimately streaming to the lakehouse, which is what this post is on here. He references a video that hits a little bit on cost and licensing. Really, it's a good architect's view, especially at the beginning, but then even dives into the developer of how do we make it work, right? Getting into ingesting the events in this case, and then using Lakehouse and a notebook to then query it. You query the data that you have flowing in. Obviously, before you get to that part, he's actually walking you through setting up the event stream, all this fun stuff. So definitely a great article. Get you, from IoT developer into actually using Fabric as part of your IoT device work. It's a great article. Loved it.
Excellent. I love the level of detail in here. As a matter of fact, I'm saving this off because there's a couple things that I was looking to do for my video tomorrow, and I'm curious to read through this. The data activator, the reflex stuff, how to be able to stream to there. I find all of that to be absolutely fascinating. And of course, when I think,
go ahead.
I was
going to say, and from architect again, all the way down to hands-on code development and stuff. He goes all the way, 30,000 feet, all the way down to landing the plane. It's awesome.
Absolutely. I was going to say, when I think about awesome, of course, I agree with you. I keep thinking about this, man, and this next technology, because I don't want to overstate this, and I try not to give out this compliment too much. This is a game changer. This is a huge, massive game changer. And we have just begun to see the beginnings of what it's going to mean to everybody. In a year, this is going to be part of architectures that we plan. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri bringing it when Microsoft announces mirroring a way to copy databases into Microsoft Fabric and copy with no ETL whatsoever. I mean, we are bypassing that typical exact transform load step that you think of. The most difficult part is ingestion. Neeraj, break this down for me. What do we got here?
Yep, exactly what you said, right? Without ETL, you can copy databases, like you can mirror your databases from right now Snowflake, Azure SQL, and Cosmos DB. That's what that was announced during the Ignite part of it. Why is it important? Matt goes over why is it important, right? Now it goes towards the open cloud, right? Your databases in Fabric can be accessed to different clouds, and you can bring data into it. That is something that definitely is going to help a game changer, as Brad said, right? This is going to be a little bit easy for users to bring all the data into one scenario, into all the databases, and do the analytics on top of it, or AI on top of it. As a Fabric, you can do even Power BI visualization, everything on top of it. So one place, and all the databases in without ETL, which is the hardest part. That's what I understand. Yep, and game changer.
Absolutely. This is a place where, we, I mean, we as a group, our team within Microsoft, we're working very closely with the PG on this. There are things that I am super excited for people to see that we can't talk about right at this moment, but we're talking with some of those PMs. We're looking forward to having them on the show with us and be able to review this. But when we say this is only the beginning, I mean, that's not an understatement. This is probably the most excited I've been for a technology we've been developing at Microsoft, just because this is going to change every architecture that we deploy for a client, especially when you're looking at getting that OLTP data into your analytics environment. I mean, this is a massive game changer. Dan, I see you wanted to add.
Yeah, Neeraj and I already had a discussion earlier this morning with somebody. about possibly using this within their environment. So it's, yeah, people are already wanting this, and we're like, well, and Neeraj dropped the bomb on them, not the F bomb, but the bomb, which I think Neeraj is an F2048 series, just because of who he is. But yeah, we were like, yeah, it's on its way. It's on its way, folks.
Well,
With more to
and
come.
and the one thing that I will point out to this is that currently, if you go and you look at some of the announcements blogs that were made around Ignite, not last week, but the week before, there is a form you can fill out. This is a gated private preview currently. So this isn't going to be rolled out in mass. If you're going in Fabric right now in your Fabric system and going, hey, where is this? I can't click on this. This has to be enabled for your Fabric instance. And so what you'll want to do is you'll want to go over to one of those blogs. You'll want to click on that link, find that form, and then self-nominate. So that way the PMs can reach out to you. But this is something where to get this, you're going to be in that preview process. And then I would look a couple months down the road, and that's when you're going to see this start to that's been our traditional thing. If you've looked at when we have a gated preview a couple months later, that's when we start to open things up. So very, very excited for this and its impact. Another Fabric feature that I'm very excited about, of course, is Data Activator. And my next link that I have is from Dr. Greg Lowe, and he does the SQL Down Under podcast. Well, he's got a Fabric Down Under podcast, and he specifically at the end of October spoke with Will Thompson when they rolled out Data Activator. And it was a really great conversation where they wide range. They talked about things they'd like to see that will be in the future of the product. They talked about things that are there right now. They talked about key scenarios where they could see utilizing this. It was a very, very interested, very candid conversation. One of the things I would say is if you have interest in Data Activator, if you're using Data Activator, there were some very interesting topics that they covered. And I would say it's never a bad thing. It was about 37 minutes to be able to listen to the whole thing from end to end. Really good. And it gave you really good insight onto this product as well. So make sure that you go and you grab that. You can download that. You can listen to it on your phone or your podcast or sitting at your desk, whatever you want to do there. But it was fantastic. And of course, speaking of fantastic, sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I can attest to that. Will Thompson had, lots of conversations with him over the year. Very candid, very forthcoming with everything. So I haven't listened to that yet, but I'm going to bookmark it now after just having it covered. And I can't wait to listen to it because it'll be a good wealth of information and good conversation. I can tell already.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, speaking of, we got up next, Mr. Mountain Man, Dan Taylor, and he's got Microsoft Fabric, Workspace Access, Item Level Access, SQL Policy, and Object Level Security. I mean, that was something that we covered in our pre-con, Dan. So I know that's got to be on your mind. Tell me about this. What do we got here?
It is, and you also have a video that covers this here on the channel. So if folks want to see this at a video level, some of this is covered in a Bradley video. So go and check that out as well. So yeah, Shabnam Watson, sorry about the name mispronunciation there, goes through Microsoft Fabric Workspace Access, Item Level Access, and then SQL Policy. First goes through the Fabric Workspace, walks you through that. Then the Workspace Level Access walks you through that as well. And then goes through Item Level Access and then gets into a place where he starts talking about SQL policies. And where this article spoke to me is I used to do and still do an Azure Synapse Analytics Workspace scenario security presentation. Inside here, there are 6 scenarios that he walks through, which is really great. And I love the different, or shall we say personas, right? Scenarios of personas, and walks through those different scenarios down below here. So it's a good end-to-end article with the security that we have right now within our at our Microsoft Fabric Workspace. So really laid out, and then there's examples to walk through. So when you start implementing this within your environment and have to talk about your security team, what we can do today, this is a great way to do it with the different personas.
Yeah, I absolutely love how this is laid out. because this is an end-to-end coverage of security that we have. You're right. There's a lot of different videos where we've demoed this individually. I love this condensed view of bringing this all together. Really, really nice stuff. And again, speaking of unbelievably great stuff, again, I am of course talking about Mr. Andreas Padilla with unleashing the power of generative AI. Azure AI Studio leads the way. What do we got here?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, bud.
Azure AI Studio is awesome. Could you hear that?
Yeah, I could hear that. That was a not well rehearsed bit. We should try that again some other time. I was literally worried you were having tech issues. I'm like, no, Andreas, we can hear you. Yeah, I got you, buddy. Loud and clear. Bring it home now. What do we got?
Great article by Eric Boyd. Thank you for putting it out this and reminding us about this announcement back at 2 weeks ago, prior to us gobbling down our gobblers on Turkey Day. It's the Azure AI Studio. What Microsoft is doing is they're taking all the greatness of the Azure OpenAI environment that we have right now, and then making a great one-stop shop for everything. In here, you can leverage everything that you want for OpenAI, create your RAG patterns. You can also tap into now multimodal types of solutions and bringing in speech, language. You can bring model in as a service. Hey, I want to hit the Llama API. Not just our, the GPT-4 and our GPT 3.5, what we have through Azure OpenAI, but hey, I want some of those open source models, the Hugging Face models. I want to be able to access those APIs. I also get under the hood here the ability to bring in prompt flows and content safety, and fine-tuning our LLM models, all under one umbrella. I love this. I've been toying around with this. If you guys have a chance, definitely spend some time tonight, tomorrow, at dinner. Get into this. This is sweet.
I can hear that conversation now. Put down your phone and pay attention to your family. No, honey, I'm doing what Andreas said. I'm looking at my cognitive models. I don't know that that'll go over well, but I'll report back.
No, honey,
Real quick.
I'm dealing with Huggy Face. No, honey, I'm not. I need to deal with Huggy.
I don't think I should use Huggy Face in front of my wife.
Real quick, y'all, before we get too far along, I just realized in my last section I called Shabnam a he, and she's actually a she. So I need to apologize to her. I was like, I just caught it, and I was like, oh no, my first show back, and I completely mess up the. So I do apologize up front.
Well, she has a wonderful MVP, and I got to tell you,
Yes.
I didn't catch that when you did it. So our apologies, and thank you so much for the wonderful content.
Yes.
We're going to keep this going with more great content, though, and I'm going to take it right over to, of course, the one and only Mr. Josh Luedeman with the Azure SQL Synapse versus dedicated pool.
Yep. So this is actually a great post from one of our colleagues, Kruti, from our team in Asia. And it's a great part of a great blog series where this is part one. And she goes through really defining the differences between Azure SQL and Azure Synapse SQL pools. So dedicated and serverless pools. And the good thing about this is as long as dedicated pools have been out there, I mean, since you want to go all the way back to what, APS, PDW, this type of MPP architecture that is the backbone of dedicated pools has been out there for years. But one of the most common questions when customers look at dedicated pools is, well, really, what's the difference between Azure SQL and dedicated pools? This article does a great job. First one in the series goes through at a high level of differences. And then in the subsequent parts, she'll go deeper into, pricing, Azure SQL decision options, dedicated pool options, the serverless pool information, performance tuning, backup and restore, the whole deal. It's a great blog series. If you're still not sure that there is a difference, trust me, there is. And Crudy does a great job in these 5 parts to actually go through and nail them all down for you to understand the real differences. It's great post.
Nice.
I love that. That's a wonderful thing to be able to look at and then call that difference between those two things, because there's a massive difference. And of course, we understand it, but sometimes we get so used to working inside of Microsoft, being familiar with Microsoft speak, we don't take the time to actually call out the differences of those two things. And I think that is incredibly important. Speaking of incredibly important, I found this next article to be very engaging, and I got to tell you, I love the name of it. It's Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri and change in the House of Lakes. Neeraj, walk me through this. What's the changes we got?
Thanks, Alex, for reaching out. This was one of the articles that Alex shared it out with Dan yesterday when he tweeted out, if you want to share your article, we can publish it out. So definitely, yep. Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Alex, for sending it out. So Alex nicely explains it out. Data Factory, as usual, is a great tool. I mean, drag and drop, which is very easy if you're not familiar with ETL. But the best thing is, with a small change in your code, is showing you how you can do a data incremental loads into your thing. He walks you step by step in the lakehouse how to create your pipeline and then make a change where you can only load a subset of data or a data incremental thing into your lakehouse. So you don't have to load every data every time. How to do the incremental thing is something that it shows really valuable in the lakehouse or in Fabric. And same can be done in the Data Factory also.
Very nice. I love this. I love these details too. And that's one of the things that we talk to with customers a lot. A lot of customers, every single time that they're loading their data, we find that they are truncating and reloading every single time. And when people say, how do I make this faster? Don't load all the data. It's going to take time. The more data you want to load, the longer the process is going to be, and you can throw more compute at it. But it's one of those big things that you want to make sure that you understand is how to be able to do those incremental loads, because those incremental loads are always going to be much faster than doing a true physical load. And of course, that's me up next, and I'm going to take something that I really love. Mark Levigid did a great blog on debunking myths and embracing innovation with Microsoft Fabric. And I love this. The only myth I didn't see in here, which is one I want to see that I have heard a couple times, is I'm not sure about this Fabric because every 3 years, Microsoft changes their data story. Well, I'm actually going to debunk that one for you before I go into this blog. Every 3 years, there's an advancement to our analytics strategy. And the people who actually work within this, that understand the advancements and the changes that we make, that were made from the analytics processing system to then the SQL data warehouse system, then to the Azure Synapse analytics, and now to Microsoft Fabrics, they see that there is a true evolution where we went from an on-premise appliance only into the cloud. We went then from being an MPP service into the cloud to a true analytics solution that allowed you to be able to use a multitude of other tools combined together. And then what we did was we took that a step forward into an even better evolution that now works in a more seamless way, that is an evolution of the technologies that we have had in place. And so I would say what you're seeing is an evolution, and the goal that we're using is one that has been used with Power BI. When we look at Power BI has lasted for a good long time. Fabric is going to do the same thing. It's meant to be an evolving service where we've brought the best in service products together for people to use. What I love about what Mark did was he took these very specific myths and he walked them through them. There's a lack of governance. Self-service is not available. Users are not tech savvy enough to work with advanced tools. You're no longer a Power BI admin's responsibility, unable to track lineage over artifacts. Fabric does not fit into our enterprise architecture. And Mark debunked every single one of those. And I think that's important. He looked at the hesitant thoughts that have grown up around each of these different things. And then he went to some of the counter arguments and then also into the solutions. And he lists the specific technologies and the solution approach to this. I'm not going to walk you through every single one of those. I want you to go out and read Mark's blog for yourself. But I found it to be absolutely fascinating. And I think it's very important. With any new technology, there is a resistance to change. And what's interesting is for every person I find that's super excited about Fabric, I also find some people that are hesitant. But I find that hesitation usually is I'm not informed enough in the product to understand how to be able to do it. Mark did a great job of really breaking down what those myths are, why they really don't hold water, and how you just have to be able to utilize the new product and what these solutions have in place. So, speaking of something that I thought was also utterly amazing, um, this being in preview and the man bringing it to me, of course, I'm talking about the one, the only Mr. Daniel Taylor, online disaster recovery between SQL Server 2022 and SQL Managed Instance. Andreas, I don't know if you could hear me. Maybe the audio's out, but I said between SQL Server 2022 and Managed Instance in Azure. Dan, take it away, buddy.
Yeah, and don't worry, Josh, you're coming up, my friend. Um, just this was a really cool announcement during Ignite, and I was excited about this because we've had a lot of naysayers, let's just say, when it comes to the managed instance link, and I think this puts that to bed, right? We're finally getting full parity here within our environment. And what this provides us is the ability now to take a SQL Server 2022 instance, CU10, I believe it is, and have our Azure SQL managed instance as a DR scenario or a readable secondary. The coolest part of this is that now, from the right-hand side of the screen here, your Azure SQL managed instance, you can create that managed instance link from it to SQL Server 2022. And the best part of it all is you get bi-directional replication. Georgia here goes through the ways we could do this through SSMS, which I love. I know there's a lot of scripting gurus out there, but I work with a lot of clients that don't have deep skill sets on their teams, and this helps them implement that. So a huge win by our product team getting the SQL Managed Instance link really up and running and providing a lot of new functionality. So I'm excited about that, and I expect to do a video on that here soon.
Very, very nice. Good stuff. Speaking of, because I always love it. And we heard it. The train is moving right along, and to keep that train moving, next up, of course, I have the one, the only, the good-looking, dare I say, Mr. Andreas Padilla with Prompt Flow Custom RAG Q&A end-to-end using Prompt Flow COI. Well, Andreas, walk me through this mouthful.
Oh, that is a lot to say right there. So major shout out to this individual. Bala not only has, if you follow his link, this is just one of many of great OpenAI LLM tutorials that he has. And why I point this out is because I love his style of presenting this material. He's like, this is the use case. These are the prerequisites. This is what you're going to do. No frills. And all of it makes sense. All of it is latest and greatest on-demand information, tutorials, demos that you want to learn for OpenAI. So all you got to do is follow those instructions, plug them in, and you're going to have, you're going to have prompt flow built in. You're going to be able to like learn semantic search, fine-tuning with GPT 3.5 Turbo, creating Azure ML learning notebooks for Hugging Face models and creating memory with semantic kernel. Man, and the guy has great item after great item after great item. They're like 4-minute top reads. You can get these things done in like 10 minutes. And for this one, the prompt flow one, it shows you how he shows you how to not only set up your Azure ML Studio, create the connection, then create your prompt flow within Azure ML Studio, and then start to work with it within code. I love his style. And this guy is someone that, man, kudos to you, Bala. Yeah, I hope it reaches you. Good stuff.
Oh, I was going to say it is. And speaking of great stuff that always speaks to me, of course, I'm talking about this next person who has the key to my ear and also to my heart. I'm talking about the one, the only Mr. Josh Luedeman with controlling direct lake fallback behavior. Josh, this sounds amazing. What do we got here?
So this was actually a great post that actually Neeraj turned me on to. And so what this works through is talks through, the feature that was announced at Ignite around direct lake fallback so that you can really understand the behavior and make sure that you have it configured properly for your environment. So it actually goes through here, talks through the semantic behavior on it, how you can control it, and gives you code snippets with Python and things like that. So it's a great post to actually dive into this feature set.
And this was the same link, another link that was shared yesterday when Dan sent it out. So
Yep.
Thanks, Pawar.
Thank you for calling that out too, Neeraj. I want to make sure to give him credit for sending
and
those in. And yeah.
I was going to say, and Sandeep, again, has my favorite Twitter handle ever, Pawar BI. And then I love how he talks about this, because this is very key for people to use. We talk about direct lake and direct query a lot, but one of the things that's really nice to know is what happens if for some reason we hit a condition where that cannot be used, what that fallback approach is. And then he points to Chris Webb's series of blogs. I love how, in the community, we're always sharing information and knowledge with one another. And then what happens when a fallback occurs, understanding the SKUs, what the limitations are, how do I control the fallback, and looking at the output. This was all absolutely amazing stuff. Very, very, very detailed. Really great. Absolutely love it. Well, I guess it is time for the wrap up. We are all out of content. So thank you to everyone for joining us today. And we have nothing to plug right now. We've got a couple weeks to go. I know that in Orlando, I want to say next week, they're having the Dev Intersections Conference, but they're not really having a large data track there. Our good friend Bob Ward is going to be in town, so I'm hoping that we get to get dinner with Bob one night. We are looking at SQL Saturdays. We've got our submissions into SQL Bits, just like all of you. I would say now is the time of year to think about what we want to be doing next year. So write a blog about it. Let us know. And if you got some content to share, we would love to hear from you. Thank you for the people who reached out to Dan so we could share your content today. As always, you are the Azure Data community, and we are here to serve you. So we would love to feature your content on an upcoming broadcast. So just let us know down in the comments. Let us know on Twitter. Reach out to any of us or to Tales from the Field. We would love to be able to have you on the show. All right. As always, for Daniel Taylor, Josh Luedeman, Andreas Padilla, and Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri, thank you for joining us. Take care out there. Be good to one another. Bye-bye, folks.
Today's gonna be a good day. Life ain't easy, yo. I think there's a reason, though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo.